Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Crashy, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the pay-to-win debacle. Now, I know I talked about it a little bit in my first impressions video. If you haven't seen that for the game, definitely go check it out. But I am going to be putting a link to a Reddit post in the description. It's got some pretty good information in it, and just a lot of people have really been diving deep into the whole pay-to-win aspect of the game, and if it's really pay to win, and like how bad it is exactly, and all of these different things. So I definitely think that it's worth talking about and giving my opinion about the game, because I'm actually getting a lot of comments from all of you guys about, you know, my perspective, and, you know, whether or not you should play the game and all of these different things. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So first and foremost, the reality is, yeah, the game definitely has pay-to-win aspects when it comes to held items. The held items, I think someone did the math on it, it's like, technically, if you were to pay money, you could go from 1 to 30 on an individual held item for like $38, and there's like 15 held items, so that's quite a bit of money if you actually wanted to have the full ranked up items. And a lot of what I'm hearing is like, oh, you know, they don't really make that big a difference, and, you know, it's not that bad, and blah 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 blah. And I definitely don't feel that way. I do and I don't feel that way. The items definitely make a difference. I think that free-to-play players are kind of at a big disadvantage in this way, because you have less versatility with your items. Like, you have to be very selective where you rank up your items, because when you pick an item, you're kind of locking yourself into a kind of type of Pokemon that you can play. If you're buying HP and defense items, you're kind of locking yourself to maybe like supports and tanks. If you're buying attack items, you're kind of locking yourself into the attack category specifically, so certain speedsters, certain all-arounders, certain attackers. And if you're picking SP, you're kind of putting yourself towards SP type Pokemon, you know, SP, Speedster, Gengar, and then the different SP attackers and things of that nature. So, you know, as a free-to-play player, it's not that you can't keep up enough. I think that, you know, getting like a couple items to 20 is really like, that's pretty good. The stat difference does start to get significant. So if you have like no items, then yeah, it's a pretty big thing. But, you know, I personally am in a position where I don't think it's bad enough for me to stop playing the game. I think that when you think about it, if the game is pay to win and it's surrounding this one aspect of the game with the items, that is going to over time kind of taper off, right? That over time we're going to actually catch up to that. And I'm not really making excuses. I hate that it's in the game. I love everything about the game, and then there's this one big fat controversy, you know, kind of standing in the way from this being like, you know, one of the best games ever, right? And so it's definitely the worst thing. Like, I hate that they did it, especially the fact that they did it in such a sneaky way where, like, I had to be shown on stream how to do it, because I just had no idea. I had no idea that you could press through when you don't have any tickets and use gems. So, you know, I think the reality is that it doesn't really impact the game as much as it seems like it will, and at the same time it does. And the reason I say that is because I don't really know how many people are actually willing to do that, to spend, you know, upwards of like $400, $500 maxing out every item. And there will be some people that do that, I suppose, but I feel like it's definitely not the norm, right? Like, I don't have an extra $300, $400 sitting around to max out all my items, and I'm not sure that you guys do either. And even if you did, is that something that you're willing to do for an advantage? Maybe. It buys you a little bit more versatility, because I'm going to be honest, I have like, what, 2 full maxed out items right now, and I still feel very viable and very strong. Granted, I'm not playing a lot of SP attackers because I don't have any SP items, but I know that I'll be able to get those in time, and I'm also very comfortable with the role that I'm playing currently. So while it is pay to win, and while it is an obvious advantage, because, you know, you can do the math on it, you can really do the math on it and see that the game does have this pay to win aspect to it, I am personally in the position where I don't think that it is enough to make me stop playing. I don't think that it's enough to overthink about or to worry about, because I'm not sure. I'm really not sure how many people will actually take advantage of this. And the reality for me is that I don't think that it's enough to stop you from performing well. I really don't. I don't want to be that person that minimizes it down to just play better or just outplay them, or, you know, maybe even saying something like skill matters more than those small stat increases. But in a way, I do feel that way. I do feel like I can still continue to perform very well. I can still continue to, you know, keep myself relevant at the game while playing on the mostly free-to-play end to upgrade my items. And I think that if you make a plan and you kind of have an idea how you want to go about this in terms of what items you want to upgrade, and you have to kind of, unfortunately, you have to kind of be a little bit selective in what your hero pool is, your Pokemon pool is for playing, then you can put yourself in a good position. So those are kind of my thoughts. I think that it's still, you know, in the long run, it's not that bad. In the interim, like in the short term, it sucks, right? And it's definitely something that I wish Tencent and Timmy wouldn't have done. I think that it kind of tarnishes the name of the game more than anything, which I think is damaging for the long run of the game. But I think that if some of you guys really enjoy the game, if y'all are kind of looking at it from the same perspective of me, or if maybe I can add a little perspective in terms of, you know, I think in the long run, it's not that bad. Like, we will eventually catch up to some of these stat increases. You know, the difference between 20 and 30 on an item, it's still pretty substantial, but it's much, much worse whenever you're at, you know, level 1 item to versus, you know, someone with a level 30 item. And that's where I think the biggest issue is. So if anything, we're kind of like in the worst bit of it now, and then I think it'll get better. And that's if you're willing to deal with it, I suppose, or willing to have like this kind of very selective strategy for upgrading your items. So those are my thoughts. I definitely love to know yours. I think that this is a pretty big controversy, and I wanted to talk about it because I don't really want to ignore it just because I'm wearing these like rose-tinted glasses with the game and honeymooning the game. I think that it's important that we do dialogue about this and share our thoughts. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Is this something that, you know, the question really is it enough to stop you from playing? Is it enough to make you quit the game? Is it enough for some of y'all that haven't tried the game to not even try it at all? For me personally, I think the game's too good, and I also see the long term, and I think that in the long term it's not going to matter that much. So that's where I'm at. As always, thank you so much for spending your time with me here on the channel. I definitely do appreciate it. Be sure to be kind to one another, tell someone that you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.